Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Enlevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. Let's look into Friday's numbers from the cattle and calves on feed. This is for slaughter market in the United States for feedlots with a capacity of 1,000 head or more. That total was 10.9 million as of August 1, 2025. The inventory was 2% below August 1 of 2024, according to the NASS report again on Friday. Placements in feedlots during July totaled 1.6 million head, 6% below 2024. Net placements were 1.55 million head. During July, placements of cattle and calves weighing less than 600 pounds were 340,000 head. Jumped to the high end, 900 to 999 pounds were 195,000 head, and those over 1,000 pounds or greater were 75,000 head. Marketing of fed cattle during July totaled 1.75 million head, 6% below 2024. DTN's analysis after a dynamite week in the cattle complex, where new contract highs were seen almost daily in both the live cattle and feeder cattle markets, and the fed cash cattle market rallied another $2 to $5 higher. Isn't it typical for the USDA's cattle on feed report to throw a minor curveball like this, said DTN livestock analyst Shaylee Stewart. Now, ahead of the report release, the big question again was, will placements be sharply lower than a year ago? And upon seeing the placement data come in at 1,598,000 head, or 94% of a year ago, it was almost shocking to see the number come in on the upper end of analyst estimated range. As we've grown accustomed to seeing the monthly data be sharply lower than a year ago, let me remind you, she says, placements at 94% of a year ago, or down 6%, are a significant decrease. But given the market has grown comfortable with seeing double-digit declines in the placement sector, seeing Friday's placement data made me raise a brow. This by no means signals a reason to panic or to feel like there are more cattle in the countryside than originally believed. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Dry weather underway as we get started this week. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at your forecast update. We've got cooler air coming across the Great Lakes. Now, that is triggering a little bit of cloud cover over northern parts of Ohio. But generally speaking, we're looking at partly sunny skies and a very comfortable day today. The pleasant weather continues tomorrow and Wednesday. We see a slight bump in temperature as we get into the Thursday time frame. Southwest flow developing, and that develops just ahead of our next frontal complex. It comes through the Great Lakes region late Wednesday night through Thursday, makes its presence known in northern parts of Ohio, likely from Thursday evening through the overnight, dissipating as it moves farther south. So from I-70 northward, keep an eye out for a few hit-and-miss scattered showers, anywhere from a tenth to half an inch, coverage around 70%. And then we get into Friday and we're dry everywhere with cooler air coming right back down. Very pleasant, very dry, very nice, honestly, for the entirety of the Labor Day holiday weekend. Temperatures moderate again next week, starting to warm up a little bit. A frontal boundary comes through the Great Lakes for the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. Not really putting good moisture into Ohio until probably Wednesday night, early Thursday. Once again, I-70 north. And behind that, we have a little bit more instability as we finish out the week. Friday night, Saturday, so the 5th into the 6th, and Saturday night into Sunday, we can see a little bit more. But once we get to Monday the 8th, we take a snapshot of the country, look all the way back to the west from here. Nothing going on. Strong high pressure, dry. I look for us to continue to be below normal as we move through the first half of September on precipitation. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. A beef bull in the southwest part of Montana in Beaverhead County has tested positive for brucellosis. A southwest Montana bull positive for brucellosis. The herd is quarantined for further investigation. Now, brucellosis is a reproductive disease more commonly found in wild bison and elk, especially into greater Yellowstone area and will often be transmitted to cattle. While all states have brucellosis-free status, surveillance efforts are ongoing in high-risk areas. This bull from a herd in Montana's designated surveillance area was taken to a livestock market in late July, and suspicions were it had brucellosis. The animal was euthanized and taken for necropsy at the Montana Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory, according to a news release by the Montana Department of Livestock. This detection shows our programs work. Early testing prevented infected cattle from being shipped, said MDOL veterinarian Brini Peterson. While detections of brucellosis are a hardship on operations, this detection is still a reflection of the success of our state brucellosis program. The disease was confirmed on August 15th by the United States Department of Agriculture's National Veterinary Service Laboratory in Ames, Iowa. The herd that the bull originated from has been placed under quarantine for further epidemiological investigation. The surveillance program is set up to catch animals before they are shipped or mixed with other livestock herds. MDOL traces the affected animal back to the originating herd and tests other animals it may have been in contact with. This is the 14th herd affected by brucellosis in the surveillance area of Montana since 2010, with the most recent in April of 2023. The source of the current infection hasn't been determined, but previous infections have been traced back to wild elk. Back with more after this.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals. Your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
Think biodiesel is just another fuel? Think again. Biodiesel is Ohio innovation on the move. Clean, green, and built to keep diesel engines running strong. It's an engine booster, a soybean supporter, and an environmental champion all in one. Every gallon reduces emissions, strengthens Ohio farms, and powers your ride. Drive with purpose. Choose biodiesel. Learn how at soyohio.org. Joining me is Gary Puckett, Director of Communications for Ohio Corn and Wheat. Why is now such an important time for farmers to join Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association, and what makes membership so valuable as harvest approaches and obviously beyond?
Fall is a time when farmers across Ohio are seeing the fruits of their hard work, right? So this is an opportunity for us to talk about the fruits of the hard work that Ohio Corn and Wheat does year-round, because membership is really a year-round endeavor. The work that we do never stops. We're advocating for sound policy all the time. Policy protects the rights and ability of folks Ohio to farm as they know how best to do. We never stop talking to lawmakers in Columbus and Washington, D.C. We're always working to remind them of the core issues that need their support and needs them to be vocal on that. That's why we also never stop communicating with our members, reminding them of what we're working on and asking them to join us to make a difference, because we know that there is strength in numbers. When it comes to the agriculture industry, while we may be the minority in the state and across the country, we play a major role and a significant role, and that gets attention, and we're being heard, and we need as many people to join us in those efforts as we can.
Gary, what are some of the current issues that Ohio Corn and Wheat growers are working on?
I'm not going to bring anything up that people don't already know, because grain farmers are facing challenges that threaten their ability to make a living, and that means it's impacting their ability to expand their operation or secure a future for the next generation. So now is the time not to stand on the sidelines. We need as many people in the fight as we can. So the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association is leading on major issues like fighting for year-round nationwide E15 to drive demand for Ohio corn, securing trade wins, but most importantly, defending your right to use important crop protection tools and shaping state policies that are going to protect profitability.
Thank you, Gary Puckett, Director of Communications for Ohio Corn and Wheat. You can find out more about Ohio Corn and Wheat and how to become a member at ohiocornandwheat.org. And the Trump administration granted full small refinery exemptions on 63 petitions to the renewable fuel standard, while granting partial exemptions on 77 petitions and denying 28 petitions, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency announced on Friday. Now, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency granted partial or full small refinery exemptions on 140 petitions. In addition, EPA announced it will be releasing a proposed rule to reallocate gallons exempted from 2023 and later years. The agency said it determined that 7 SRE requests were ineligible. This means the EPA still has 57 total exemption requests pending. EPA does not plan to propose reallocation of any of the exempted volumes for any SREs from 2016 to 2022 in light of the limitation of their potential use, the agency said in a news release. According to the 31-page document released by the EPA on the decision, the granted full and partial exemptions account for 5.34 billion renewable identification numbers, or RINs. What's more, the agency said it has moved away from presuming that all refineries can fully pass RIN costs to consumers and acknowledged that some refineries may face higher RFS compliance costs. This is a significant change from the previous assumption made by the EPA on RFS costs. The U.S. ethanol industry has expressed concern that if the SREs are not handled properly by the agency, the ethanol market could suffer. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For marketing information to LDC for your beans, call 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished the Friday session mixed. Corn was pretty well flat, beans up a couple pennies, and wheat was down a couple of pennies overall. The volume of trade on Friday slowed dramatically due to the release of the small refinery exemptions from EPA. Soy oil futures traded quite violently following the release, a sharp break followed by an equally sharp rally. The messy release of small refinery exemptions ends months of speculation and is considered a win for the U.S. refining industry. Let's talk through it here. EPA determined that it would provide exemptions for 63 applicants, with some as old as 2016. Moreover, the EPA granted a 50% partial approval for 77 applicants and then denied 28. 13 applications still yet to be decided. The small refinery exemptions amount to about 5.34 billion RINs, according to data provided by the EPA website. The exemptions were far larger than expected. However, soy oil futures rallied sharply when it was reported that the EPA would consider reallocating the voided obligations back to large blenders and refiners. So in my mind, this story isn't done yet. The SRE ruling was probably a little bit bearish for 26-27 demand for biofuels, and then looking at potentially bullish mid to late October if there's reallocation going forward. On top of this, the Foreign Ag Service announced the sale of just shy of 120,000 metric tons of U.S. corn to Costa Rica, 140,000 for Spain. New sales were following prior daily sales of U.S. corn, so we're continuing to move product. Again, though, it's other places outside of China. That is still the elephant in the room, whether or not we can get any kind of idea with a China trade agreement. Brokers estimate that funds bought 3,200 contracts of beans on Friday and at 2,100 contracts of corn, sold 3,100 contracts of wheat. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, September corn up 1 1/4 at 389.5. December up 1 at 412.5, and March up 1 1/4 at 430 even. Beans have seen two-sided trade. September now down a half at 10.36. November down 1/4 cent at 10.58 1/4. Next May unchanged at 10.99 3/4. September wheat up 2 at 5.06 3/4. December up 1.5 pennies at 5.28 3/4, and March up 3/4 at 5.45 cents. In livestock on Friday's close, August cattle up $1.30 at $239.95. October up $3.15 at $237.87. And remember, all the cattle numbers are closing on Friday before the cattle on feed report numbers came out. October lean hogs up $1.27 at $91.20. December up $1.27 at $84.37. September feeder cattle up $4.65 at $362.67. The October was up $4.40 at $362.50. Go all the way out to November, up $4.20 at $360.85. Today's program has been brought to you in part by the United Soybean Board, your soybean checkoff working for you. This is the Ohio AgNet.